Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my very first Chicago Bulls weekly episode. This is a series that hopefully will continue on past this point, where we discuss the games that have happened throughout the week for the Chicago Bulls, give my player of the week, give my most standout player of the week off the bench, and obviously our players that need to improve. We're going to discuss all the games that did occur within this week, and we're going to have a good time doing it because we had a very good week in this Chicago Bulls crazy fanatic schedule. So without further ado, let's talk about the preseason for the Chicago Bulls, because that is the week that we just experienced, and let's talk about it right now. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? It's the Aiden Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls video, and this time it's a brand new series that I would like to hope it could continue past this point. But that all comes down to you guys and what you guys think about this video. If you do enjoy this video, please like the video and also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And let's see if this is a video that I could be making for weeks and weeks and weeks on end for the Chicago Bulls in the regular season. So this is called the Chicago Bulls Weekly. This is going to be hopefully a weekly update on the Chicago Bulls, their record, how well they played, who's the player of the week for the Chicago Bulls, who's been the most disappointing player for the Chicago Bulls, who's been the surprise player for the Chicago Bulls, and of course over the weeks we'll be able to add more stuff with if you guys like the idea and the concept behind this video. We got a lot of things to talk about. We really do. Because the Chicago Bulls, ultimately, it's been a little bit more than a week. So, of course, already in the first video, I've kind of been slacking. But the reason why it's been more than a week is because the preseason started last week and most of the preseason games started this week. I didn't want to neglect the game that we missed. So we played 4 games in this week so far, basically, for the Chicago Bulls, and that is all of our preseason games. We played 2 games at home against the Houston Rockets, and we played 2 games away against the OKC Thunder. Now, of course, in this week, we ended up having a record of 3 wins and 1 loss. The Chicago Bulls ended the week very positively after a very bad, disastrous loss to the Houston Rockets with our first preseason game. Now, ultimately, the game and the structure of these games were very unique, very different. There's no fans in the arenas, and obviously we're versing brand new teams. We saw John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins be on the same team for the first time in ages, I believe since college, and obviously they both look very good. We versed an OKC side that Al Horford looks like a rejuvenated player on this Oklahoma City team. But obviously, this is a Chicago Bulls YouTube channel. So what were the Chicago Bulls? Well, we obviously ended in a very positive record. So you thought we clearly played good, yes? Well, we did play good. In the second game against the Houston Rockets and the third game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Chicago Bulls were phenomenal. And I'm targeting the first Oklahoma City game. That game was sensational. It was highlight reel plays. If there was any game I recommend you go watch in this preseason, go watch the Oklahoma City Thunder game, the first game against them, because that was an absolute masterpiece for the Chicago Bulls. Players worked really hard. We saw open threes, we saw contested shots, we saw posterizers, we saw a human highlight reel in that Chicago Bulls game, and that is my game of the week. We can add that in there too. Game of the week was definitely the Chicago Bulls versus the OKC Thunder preseason game 3 and game 1 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That was definitely my game of the week. Absolutely sensational performance from the Chicago Bulls, and glad to see that we have structured our games. We structured the way that we play so differently. The things that stand out to me the most was the way that we played, how different it was to the likes of a Jim Boylan team, and even to an extent a Fred Hoiberg team. The movement, the cuts, the layups, so many mid-range shots as well. The art of the mid-range game is gone. Well, it looks like it's coming back for the Chicago Bulls. Also, we saw some standout performers. So, with that being said, let's go into the overall rewards for this week. Now, we're going to start off with the negative one, because at the end of the day, this is something that I don't necessarily want to give out every single week, but it's something that I feel like these players would need to hear if they watch the videos, or even if they don't, some of the fans might need to vent out some things that they have to say. For me, the player that disappointed in this preseason, and it's very unfortunate that I'm going to be talking about him in this video, it's going to be Wendell Carter Jr. Now, Wendell Carter Jr. has disappointed many people, but it's not a disappointment to the extent where it's borderline unacceptable. Because at the end of the day, Wendell Carter is in a new new type of style of basketball. He's in a new development plan. He's in a new environment where he is having more offensive responsibility. He's trying to become a facilitator for the Chicago Bulls. He's trying to become a spot-up shooter for the Chicago Bulls. He's trying to take more shots, be more aggressive. And in these things, in the preseason, he failed to really show us in consistent ways that he can be these things. Now, facilitating, I think Wendell Carter will be fine now. There's not going to be an issue. But the shooting of Wendell Carter in this preseason has been awful. Most of his shots have come from the paint once again, which has been a very similar thing from the last few years with him. 3-pointers, he's only made 1 out of all 4 preseason games. And of course, in his mid-ranges, he's been okay. He's shot some decent mid-ranges, and he's also bricked a lot of mid-ranges too. Now, Wendell Carter, again, I'm saying he was the most disappointing player in the preseason, but this is something that's not going to concern me too much. I want to see more. At the end of the day, he is still a player that is in a whole new type of style of basketball. This is what Wendell Carter has to do. I think he's changed the most out of every player in this preseason. Out of every player on this team, Wendell Carter's the one that's had to change and adapt the most. So of course, when you're changing your entire way of playing for the last 2 years, in every way, really, for Wendell Carter, I'm not surprised that he's struggling like he is. But hopefully in the regular season, and maybe even down the line, maybe mid-regular season, we will be able to see consistently a better Wendell Carter. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I think we need. And that's what I think the Bulls are aspiring for him to do. To struggle in the first part. At the end of the day, practice makes perfect. The more you practice the things that you're trying to work on, and in this case, it's shooting for Wendell, the better you will become at it. You're not going to be consistently bad for your entire career if you keep on shooting, you keep on practicing. So, like, for example, there have been a few players that Zach LaVine was never a great shooter in the start of his career, but he managed to improve that gradually over time, and now he's one of the best shooters in the NBA. And that is what I don't think will work with Wendell Carter to that extent. I don't think he'll ever be the best shooter in the NBA, but he can gradually improve in those areas. And I think practice makes perfect. But unfortunately, the preseason, it is a weekly basis. And this week, Wendell Carter is my most disappointing player. I feel like I don't need to go more in depth about that. I basically said a whole spew about Wendell Carter, but I have a lot of faith that he can turn things around in the regular season. Moving on to the most surprising player in the preseason, the standout player, in my opinion, in the preseason. Now, we had 4 games. Now, unfortunately, for a lot of the people on the bench, we've had a few players waived. A few players had very, very good games. Standouts like Simishitsu was a good player in our last preseason game. Noah Vonleh, who also got waived. And Sadaransky, that only played 1 game. But my standout this week for the Chicago Bulls, my sleeper pick maybe for the Chicago Bulls, is Chandler Hutchison. Chandler Hutchison, the key difference between all of those players I mentioned before and Chandler Hutchison was that every single game, Chandler Hutchison had consistency in the way that he played. He played like that consistently every single day for the Chicago Bulls in all 4 games. Defensively aware, great cuts around the ring. I mean, shooting, Chandler Hutchison, I don't see him as a fantastic shooter, but it's good to see that he's taking shots, he's adding that to his range as well. He had fantastic steals. I believe he led us in steals this preseason. Again, only a week, 4 games. That's not really much to brag about, but it is something that even in his last season for the Chicago Bulls, he tried very hard to accomplish, to become one of the league leaders in steals. And he was up there for a lot of it until he got injured. So Chandler Hutchison, in my opinion, it's the consistency that brought real good surprise out of me, is that he did this on a consistent basis. That's why he's my standout. That's why he's my surprise player of the week. Very, very good performances from Chandler Hutchison across all of preseason, and I'm very, very happy and excited to see once again if he can carry it over into the regular season. I still want to talk more about Chandler Hutchison, but I will do that in another video. And my player of the week is obviously, I know there's a lot of contenders because we've had some very good performers this week. My First player of the week. And again, none of this is going to count towards a tally until the regular season, because preseason, I'm not really going to classify that as, wow, I'm going to keep this on board, and we're going to talk about this later. For me, the player of the week is Zach LaVine. Has had really 3 fantastic games in this preseason, and his first game against the Rockets, he wasn't particularly amazing. I think he had 13 points, but every single game besides that, he's had a very good, consistent game. Now, over 20 points in 2 games this preseason. He had 20 points in the first half. I think in all of his last 3 games, he scored plus over 20 points per game. So he's had a very good, steady performance for the Chicago Bulls. And the consistency, once again, is what stands out, because Kobe White may have had a better game, probably the best game in the preseason, but he couldn't do that consistently. Larry Markkinen had 22 points in his last game, but he didn't do that consistently. And that's exactly why Zach LaVine takes home my player of the week for the Chicago Bulls this week. Fantastic. And also, it's his consistency on defense as well. His defense does give away fouls. We have to be honest. There is that one negative. He does give away fouls when he plays defense, but keeping his off-ball defense to a high level is important. His on-ball defense was exceptional this preseason, and hopefully when we have the Chicago Bulls weekly episodes next week, we're going to say Zach LaVine played good defense again. We're going to be saying Zach LaVine had over 20 points per game every game again. And we're going to be saying Zach LaVine is our player of the week every single week, because at the end of the day, he's our best player. He's the one that I expect should be earning this award every single week. But again, that is not going to be likely because we have a lot of weeks to discuss. But for me, the very first episode of this Chicago Bulls Weekly, Zach LaVine is my player of the week. Now, that's going to be the end of this video. Those are my awards that I'm giving to the standout players for the Chicago Bulls. And also Wendell Carter, unfortunately, gets the award of the most disappointing player in the preseason. I would like to see him work more and honestly, just keep doing what he's doing, because I think the more that you do the things that you do, the better you become at them. It's like YouTube. I've been doing this for nearly a year now. And if you look back at my first video till now, even though I'm still not the best at it, I can tell you with 100% guarantee I am much better now than I was a year ago. It's as simple as that. That's just how you develop and work. And that's going to be the same thing with Wendell Carter. Yes, at the moment right now, it's not working out for him. It's very disappointing. We don't have that much time to change things for Wendell Carter, but the more that you practice them, the more that you become comfortable taking those shots, I think, in my opinion, the better you will become at them. It's just a work in progress. And overall, fantastic performances from Chandler Hutchison and Zach LaVine, who get another shout out this week on the Chicago Bulls Weekly. That is going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the Aiden Sports Show YouTube channel. Let me know in the comments below, did you enjoy this video, and would you like to see this video every single week for the Chicago Bulls? Because at the end of the day, making game reviews for that specific time, a lot of people might not have time to watch every single game review. And as a Bulls channel, I will be doing game reviews for as many games as I possibly can. But for most people, I feel like they would much prefer a weekly Chicago Bulls update video, because that is going to be the way that most people will be able to interact it on a weekly basis and then continue to go on with their normal lives. Not everybody has time to watch a game review after the game, but most people will. Some people won't. And I think this is the best of both worlds. And I'm giving variety to those people that choose what they want to watch when they want to watch it. So hopefully that works out for everybody. With that being said, have a wonderful day. I do have another Bulls video I want to make tomorrow before the season begins, which is in 2 days. I'm so pumped for this. I do have one more video to discuss. So we'll be doing that very, very soon. Have a wonderful day. Stay happy, stay smiling, and stay safe. Take care. And peace.